Okay, I think we'll get started here. My name is Claire. Thank you everybody for joining me. I'm the student recruitment specialist for Calgary and the surrounding area. So this is an event for our Calgary area high school students. So as we go through some of the content, we're going to talk in the language of Alberta courses. So if you have questions about that as we go through as well, I have Jamie joining me, one of our other student recruitment advisors who's going to be able to answer a bunch of your questions in the chat as well. So if you have questions as we go through, there's the Q&A where you're going to be able to throw any of those questions in there. As well, we're going to have lots of time for questions at the end. So as you go through, please feel free to let us know if you do have those questions. But yeah, as I said, I'm the student recruitment specialist for Calgary and the surrounding area. So really supporting our local students as they transition from high school to post-secondary. As we go through some of these steps, we're going to talk about those next steps now that we have seen some offers go out at standard admission. What does it look like now that we've kind of done that evaluation based on our first semester grades? To start off, I want to acknowledge the University of Calgary, located in the heart of southern Alberta, both acknowledges and pays tribute to the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7, which include the Blackfoot Confederacy, including the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Goodstoney First Nations. As well, the city of Calgary is home to the Métis Nation within Alberta, Nose Hill Métis District 5, and Elbow Métis District 6. So to start off right away, I want to spend a moment kind of talking about what is the difference between early admission, standard admission, and final admission. So our timeline really follows more of a consideration of which courses we're using for admission. So the type of admission evaluation is going to be based on the courses we're using. So when our admissions team gets your courses, we're going to look to see if you've completed a 30 level course. If you've completed a 30 level course, we're going to be doing a standard admission. The standard admission is going to be 5 required courses, and we'll talk about what those courses look like. Um, an early admission offer is something that's given out before a 30 level course is completed. Typically, this is for students who apply before the first semester of grade 12 is completed. This is when we start to see students only have the 20 levels. If you took a 30 level in a year before grade 12, that's when we're going to look at standard admission or those 5 courses right away. A final admission offer is an offer given when all of the required courses are completed. So for high school courses, courses for admission have to be done by June 30th of 2026 for admission for the fall. So we're going to be looking at how many courses are completed. If we're at the end of the year, and we're looking at all of those courses, then that's when it's going to be considered a final admission offer. Thinking about that admission process, so our admission's competitive based on 5 faculty-specific subjects. Students may be reviewed multiple times as we go throughout the year, starting with first semester, 20 level grades, grade 11 courses, and then looking at grade 12 or 30 level. If you apply and maybe you don't have all your 30 levels done, obviously as you're going through grade 12, you'll be finishing them as the semesters go. We're going to start by looking at 20 levels, and then as 30 levels start to be completed, we will use those and then fill in any gaps for the other required courses with your 20 levels. So when we're at this point, we've seen those first semester grades. Now we're using a mix of your 30 levels and your 20 levels until we get to the end of grade 12. We're going to take the average of those 5 courses, those 4 or 5 courses, and that'll be your competitive admission average. Your competitive admission average is going to be what we're going to compare against the estimated competitive average for the program to see if you have the average to be admitted. Some programs have additional criteria. If you've applied for a program that has a supplemental component, we're going to talk about those next steps as well. But thinking about that admission process, for each program, the course requirements are going to be different. So when we're thinking something like kinesiology, we're going to look for English 30-1, Math 30-1, biology 30, chemistry 30, and one other course. This fifth course can be an approved course or option. So there's really a range in what we're able to use. With that, we're going to take the average of those five courses, looking to see if you're meeting that competitive admission average. There are some that the requirements work a little bit different. So if you've applied for nursing, um, we're looking for English 30-1, Math 30-1 or dash 2, Biology 30, Chemistry 30 or Science 30, and then one other approved course or option. We're looking that you have an average of 82% or higher, and then you're entered into the lottery admission process. And that's something that we're going to talk about as well. What step are we at within the lottery process? There are also some additional admission pathways, and it isn't too late to add these to your application. You can make changes to your application up until March 1st, and we'll talk about what some of these changes can be. Um, for one of the main ones, our student access process. Our student access process is for students that have faced barriers throughout their academics, whether they're social or economic, acute illness or chronic conditions, marginalization, any of those barriers that you face through your education. This is an opportunity for you to present a personal statement to the faculty that you're applying to be able to be considered under an additional pathway. If you're looking to apply under the student access process, we're always here to answer questions about what that looks like. And we'll talk about some of the steps to applying to that student access process in some of our kind of common misconceptions section at the end. Additionally, we have processes for our Indigenous students. So if you are an Indigenous student and you have already applied, we recommend connecting with our Indigenous recruitment team to be able to talk about some of those steps, to be able to look at the additional pathways. So our Indigenous students, similarly to the student access process we talked about before, there's additional pathways that you're able to add to your application so that we can consider you in an alternate way. Now that we're halfway through grade 12, we finished the first semester, we're finishing out our second semester. We might be looking and thinking, okay, maybe I'm missing a course. Maybe I don't have that fifth approved course or option, and I need to get it done. What are our other options? So we have students that present missing required courses in different ways, whether it's writing an AP exam. So writing an AP exam or challenging the exam in that subject can allow us to use it for admission. As well, we would accept completing an online high school course from a recognized accredited institution. If you are a Calgary student, you're looking to maybe take an online course, I recommend connecting with your school counselor. You can both connect with us to be able to talk about what some of those options are, but we won't look at an online course differently than what we would look at an in-person course. So if you are able to get that missing course using an online platform, then that's an option as well for us to be able to use that to meet admission requirements. One thing that I will say that I mentioned before is that courses have to be done by June 30th at the high school level. So we need to be able to see that you finish that course by June 30th. Okay, so thinking about some of the pathways. So we've sent out some offers, we've done our early admission, we've done part of our standard admission. What's next? So we're going to go through some of the different steps or the different places that some of us might be at right now. So, for students that have received an early admission offer for their first choice, um, an early admission offer is considered to be an offer given out before 30 level courses completed. If you received an offer to your first choice based on your 20 level grades, we aren't going to evaluate your offer again until the end of grade 12, meaning that you're going to have the whole year to make sure you're meeting the requirements, maintaining your average, and graduating from high school. But we're not going to reevaluate on your first semester grades until we look that you've met the conditions of your offer at the end of grade 12. So those first semester courses will be considered in the final evaluation, but we won't reevaluate based on the first semester if you've already received an offer of admission, meaning that you can accept your offer, pay your deposit, and as long as you maintain the conditions of your offer, you'll be able to keep that offer all the way to the end of grade 12 and start studying in September. If you've received an early admission offer to your second choice, our next steps are going to be looking at standard admission for that first choice. So if you received an offer to your second choice at early admission, we will reevaluate your first choice after we've received your first semester grades. Even if you accept the offer to your second choice, pay your deposit, our admissions team has evaluated based on your first semester grades as well. But we can do a final evaluation on your first choice. So if you didn't receive an offer to your first choice in that standard admission, but still have that offer to your second choice, you can still accept that offer and wait and see if we can evaluate you successfully at the end of grade 12. But we'll talk about what some of those steps are to be evaluated at final evaluation a little bit later as well. Reevaluations will be done under standard admission, as I said, meaning that we're going to use any 30 levels that are available. So if you weren't admissible on your 20 levels, we'll use the new 30 levels that are available and then filling in the gaps with any of those 20s. So if you received an offer at standard admission, meaning after your first semester of grade 12 is done, your standard admission offer is an offer given where there's going to be at least one 30 level course used in our evaluation. Standard admission is when the majority of our offers are sent out. So if you didn't receive an offer in early admission, but you did receive one in standard, that's when the majority of our offers do go out to our students. When we're thinking about some of those next steps, we are going to look for that you meet the conditions of your offer. And for high school students, they are going to be similar conditions for everyone at the high school level. Applicants who receive a conditional offer um, must maintain their competitive average, um, complete all the required courses, submit any outstanding documents, and graduate from high school. So those outstanding documents, you're able to, if you've applied through Apply Alberta, you don't necessarily have to worry about those. We recommend connecting if you see something in your to-do list on your student center that has been waiting for a while. If you see it more than 7 days, if you see anything like that, we recommend you connect with us so we can look at what we're looking for in that document and if we can pull it automatically. The next one that I want to talk about is if you've applied for a program with a supplementary application. So, students who have applied to a program with a supplementary application um, built into standard admission, meaning health sciences, fine arts, dance and visual studies, the Bachelor of Music, and the Bachelor of Social Work. These programs have some type of supplementary requirement, whether it's a written statement, an audition, or a portfolio. Supplementary components are still being reviewed by the faculty. Their supplementary components aren't due until March 1st, and you're able to see this deadline in your student center. Um, with that, we are looking that you continue to work towards submitting that document on time. Our faculties are then going to evaluate, and we usually see those decisions sent out after all of our students have submitted those supplementary components. If you are applying for a program that requires an audition, there's going to be instructions in your to-do list to set up time to do that audition. So if you have questions specifically about setting up that audition, we recommend connecting with the faculty as well. And we're happy to share some of those contacts or those contacts as well, so we can make sure that you're set up to be able to do that audition as well. Once you've submitted your supplementary component, we recommend continuing to regularly check your student center. All of your updates will be in there. Typically, we're able to send an email when there is an update, but we recommend regularly checking so that we can make sure we're catching any of the different things we need to submit or we're seeing any updates to our application. For the next kind of pathway. If you haven't received an offer yet, what's next? So, our next evaluation for Alberta high school students is going to be final evaluation. Final evaluation will happen at the end of grade 12. Once we see all your 30 levels are completed and we get that final transcript. They typically occur in July. So we recommend that if you are at this point, you don't have an offer yet, but you're still wanting to get into a program for the fall, connecting with us about exploring the option to change your second choice program. You can make any of these changes to your application until March 1st, 2026. So we've still got a couple weeks here to be able to make any of those changes. If you are thinking, hey, I maybe want to change my second choice, I don't know what I want to change it to. I want to make sure that I can still be evaluated for my first choice. This is a great time to start thinking about it. So we're happy to talk about what some of those second choice programs could be as we go through some of those steps. If you are a student who has received an offer to another institution, but maybe you're still thinking about attending UCalgary later down the road, maybe you're looking at attending another institution first, we recommend connecting with our transfer recruiter at transfer.recruiter@ucalgary.ca to be able to talk about what those steps might look like to transfer into a program as you're thinking about exploring UCalgary a little bit later in your academic program. There is still time. So as we think about not receiving an offer, we still do want to find a way for you to be able to apply for a program that you're going to be interested in that we're able to evaluate you for at the end of the year. With that, it can be challenging as we see programs fill up, but as we get closer to the end of grade 12. But if you do have questions about what this looks like, we're always happy to kind of support changing those program choices or looking at a different pathway as well. So thinking when we're looking for those competitive admission averages, it can be something that's top of mind as we get into the second semester and we start to get to the halfway point of those courses. How do I know the competitive admission average for my program? So, our competitive admission averages are published in ranges until the final admitting average is determined in May. So, these ranges can be found on our admission requirements webpage. I have kind of a screenshot of it down below. Within this page, you're going to be able to edit the program that you're looking at. So, if I was going into environmental science and I wanted to see the average, I'd be able to select it from the drop down and see what that range looks like. When we're thinking about those final admitting averages, they're going to be posted in your student center. So this is an example about where you can find them. So within your student center, under the status of your application, you're going to be able to click on that status and scroll to the bottom where it shows the conditions of your admission. At the conditions of admission, it's going to show you where you can click to find those admission averages. We recommend continuing to check in as we get closer to that April, May to be able to find those exact averages. These are the averages that we're looking that you um, maintain. So if you have questions about if your average starts to shift as we get closer to the end of grade 12, we recommend connecting with our admissions team to see where we are sitting comparative to the estimated competitive average. As well, if you're a student doing advanced credit, so maybe we're looking at somebody completing International Baccalaureate or IB, advanced placement, this is a good chance to start thinking about that advanced credit. So if you're an IB diploma student, you're eligible for up to a full first year of credit, which is 30 units or 10 courses. For students that are taking HL courses, so whether you're taking HL courses in partial or IB certificate or in your IB diploma, we're going to be able to award specific credit for those courses with a minimum grade of 5 or higher. For our students who are taking advanced placement, students who take the AP exam in a subject and get a score of 4 or higher can receive advanced credit for that course at the university level as well. So if you're looking at your final grades or you're starting to think about those final grades as we get closer to the end of grade 12 and you're wanting to kind of explore how it's going to affect your course registration if you've already received an offer, then we recommend connecting with your faculty advisors as well as we get closer to building that schedule. But if you are a student who has received an offer and we're looking to think about building that schedule and looking at some of those different plans, we recommend connecting with our enrollment services team to learn a little bit more about course registration. And we'll share some of those links as well for events that you're able to register for to learn about that registration. Okay, so moving into kind of our last section before we talk about specific questions. This is going to be the kind of general overview of some of the common admission myths. So things that we've heard students ask, that students have said that they've heard from other people. And we want to make sure we kind of can answer all of those questions as we go through the next couple months of the admission process. So if as we go through, you're always again welcome to put those questions in the Q&A. And then if there's one that we missed, we'll answer it at the end as well. So to start off, the first myth is if I wasn't selected for the first nursing lottery, I won't be considered for the next. This is false. If you're not selected for the first round of the nursing lottery admissions, but you're meeting the requirements for the threshold, as I mentioned, the 5 required courses and 82% or higher, you're going to be considered for the next lottery draw until the program is full. The next lottery draw, the deadline to submit documents is March 1st, and we'll see the next lottery happen within the month of March. The next one is I will lose my offer based on my grade 12 semester one results. If we're going through and you see a little star or asterisk beside false, this is where we might see sometimes it is not necessarily false and we'll see it affect those offers. But for this question specifically, if you'll lose your offer based on your grade 12 semester one results, students must continue to maintain their admitting average based on those 5 required courses. However, students admitted before the completion of the first semester, meaning early admission based on your 20 level grades, will be reevaluated at the end of grade 12. So if your overall average is still staying in that range and you're completing all your required courses, then it doesn't necessarily mean that your first semester grade 12 30 levels are going to negatively affect your application. But this is on a case by case basis. So if you're looking at your grades and you're seeing that there might be a big shift in that second semester from what your first semester showed, we recommend connecting with us so we can talk about some of those factors as we move into the next section of the admission process. The next one, this is specifically for our Alberta high school students who were affected by the strike in the fall, specifically about the diplomas. We have heard some students ask if writing the optional diplomas for semester one courses in April will only benefit the application. This is again on a case by case basis, but writing the optional diplomas will only benefit your application in the case that it brings up your average in the course. So even though they're optional, if you choose to write the diploma for a course that you completed in the first semester that did not have a required diploma, we are going to use that optional diploma as part of the final grade because that's how it'll be presented to us on your transcript from Alberta Education. So if you are wanting to write those diplomas because you know it'll bring your grade up, that's what we recommend if you feel that that's how you're going to be able to bring that average up. If you are thinking that you're not wanting to write the diploma because you don't want it to affect your average, then because they were optional for that first semester, we won't need to see it. But when they are required for the courses this semester, we will need to see that diploma as part of the final grade as it's still built into your curriculum for this semester. The next one, failing a course in the first semester that is not required for admission will hurt my application. This one is also false. So if a course is not required for admission, it's not going to affect your competitive average calculation. Your average calculation is based on those 4 or 5 required courses, not necessarily your overall average of all of the courses you're taking at the 30 level. However, it is important to ensure you're meeting the 5 course requirement, excluding the failed course. So if you did have a failed course, maybe it could have been used as an approved course. We want to make sure that you're still meeting those requirements as you go through as well. Oh, sorry, guys. A little overview of all the other slides. Okay, there we go. So, yeah, we are recommending that if you are not sure if you're meeting those course requirements, connecting with us to make sure you still have those 5 courses. The next one, these two are specifically related to the student access process personal profile. So the next one, I have to submit my SAP personal profile to be considered for standard or general admission. This is false. So students applying under SAP or the student access process will be evaluated under standard admission first. And if they are not eligible for admission under the general process, then their personal profile will be sent to the faculty for consideration. This is similar to how the process works for our Indigenous students. If you are an Indigenous student, you will be considered under the standard admission first. If you're not eligible, then our admissions team and our Indigenous recruitment team will be able to be there to support some of those next steps to be considered under an additional pathway. If I am on the wait list for a program and my SAP profile is rejected, I will be removed from the wait list. This is also false. Again, SAP and standard or general admission are not dependent on each other. They're their own pathways. So it does not have an effect on standard admission, and you will stay on the wait list even if you have your personal profile rejected by the faculty. But as we go through some of those steps for the personal profile, if you do have questions about how to submit your personal profile or what any of those processes look like, we also recommend connecting as well so we can get some of those steps kind of laid out for you so that we can make sure everything's submitted on time. Okay, so that's kind of the formal part of the information that I wanted to share. I want to go over some important dates and some contacts, and then we're going to be able to answer all of your questions. So, some of the big dates right now, the first one is March 1st. March 1st is the deadline to apply for admission, which we've already hopefully all done. It's also the deadline to make any changes to your program choices. So, if you want to change that second choice, if you want to change your first choice, you have to do it before March 1st. We recommend trying to do it a couple days before, so that if you do have questions as you go through the process, we're going to be able to support it in a timely manner. But again, if you have questions about what those second choices look like, then we'll be able to answer those as well. For any students that have to submit documents manually, so maybe you studied in another province, maybe you're completing a course online from another province that doesn't participate in Apply Alberta, then March 15th is the deadline to submit unofficial transcripts. As well, March 15th is the deadline to submit supporting documents for admission. This is when we would look for our SAP personal profiles as well. Um, One of the other big dates that I want to mention is May 1st. May 1st is the deadline for students to accept their offer and pay their deposit. So, as we're looking through some of those next steps, we recommend accepting that offer as soon as you feel good about the program that you've been admitted to and that you're ready to kind of take that next step to secure your spot. As well, you might be wondering if you've applied for scholarships and awards, when are you going to be notified? We recommend if you have specific questions connecting with our awards team about specific awards, but you still have time to apply for our high school entrance awards until March 1st. As well, our award notifications typically go out before May 1st. So you will have time to be able to get those award notifications before you have to accept that offer. In early May, for students that have been admitted and received an offer, new students will begin to register for first year courses. And then June 30th is that deadline for completion of all of your high school courses. August 1st to 30th is when we start to see students submit final official transcripts. Um, there's going to be specific deadline information in your student center. And again, this is for students that have to submit something that doesn't participate in Apply Alberta. So outside of Alberta, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon, this is when we'll have to look at submitting those documents manually. If we go through kind of everybody's questions, and maybe you forgot to ask a question, things like that, we always want you to reconnect with us, especially as we get closer to that March 1st deadline. You can connect with me at calgary.recruiter@ucalgary.ca. As well, we do one-on-one meetings, or you're able to connect with us by phone as well. But if you are a student looking to apply under the student access process, or maybe you've already applied and have questions about that process, we recommend connecting with Kara, our recruitment specialist for community. As well, if you are a student that's maybe thinking about studying at another post-secondary institution, then connecting with Aspen at transfer.recruiter@ucalgary.ca. As well, if you're an Indigenous student, connecting with Hallie and Alicia at indigenous.recruiter@ucalgary.ca. Okay, now's the time we're going to open the floor to questions. So keep putting your questions in the Q&A and I'll answer some live as well. So one question here is, can students potentially receive scholarships even if they have not yet paid the deposit? So yes, so you can receive a award notification before you pay your deposit and accept your offer. This is the main goal of having the offers of scholarships or the scholarship recipient notifications go out before you have to accept that offer, is that we want to make sure you're getting the most informed choice. So you'll usually see them go out in early April. We'll usually see it range within that month so that you have some time to accept that offer of admission after you've heard about the scholarships.